I thought I'll just give a refresher on a few topics which might have been confusing for you since I was just talking. And today I have this white blackboard with me. So today I want to just give you a refresher on the tenants, the different types of tenants that we have. Now you might have already got access to this particular tenant. So this is what a Workday, this is called as a tenant instance. All right. So this is what a Workday tenant will look like when you start working as a Workday consultant. Now, when it comes to tenants, there are different types of tenants. So as soon as, once a project goes live, assuming most of you will be starting working as a consultant on AMS engagements, meaning application management services. Once the system goes live, go live meaning they are started to use Workday. That is the meaning of go live. So once they go live, there will be three tenants that will be actually there will be five different types of tenants that will be given by Workday by default to every Workday customer. The first tenant will be the production tenant. The second tenant will be the sandbox tenant. Now there will be one implementation tenant. So these three tenants will be given by Workday. Additional to this, there are few other tenants that can be purchased by the customers from Workday. It's called as Sandbox Preview. We have Customer Central. Okay, so production tenant, sandbox tenant, implementation tenant, sandbox preview tenant, and customer central tenant. These are the five different types of tenant that most Workday customers will have. Now, what is the difference between these tenants? Now, regardless of which tenant it is, all the tenants will go on a maintenance for a few hours on a Saturday. So Saturday will be a tenant maintenance day. Anytime you log into the tenant on a Saturday, you will see like a message about tenant maintenance. It'll show a page which says that this is a scheduled tenant maintenance activity, and the tenants are all under maintenance. And the reason for this is because it's all under cloud. So the entire Workday ecosystem is maintained on an AWS cloud. AWS meaning Amazon Web Services Cloud. So the data centers are somewhere. So some of them are in North America, some of them are in different parts of the world. So there are multiple data centers for AWS spread across different parts of the world, and Workday has instances in several of these data centers across the world. Now it depends. If the customer's base location is in the US and most of the offices are in US, they will be using the North American data center. But if the customer is distributed across multiple location, depending upon the tier they choose, they will have access to Workday from different. I mean, the Workday instances will be distributed. There will be copies of instances across data centers. Now, that is one of the reasons we have a scheduled maintenance on Saturday where it will all reconcile the entire data across different data centers and then compile it into one single instance. So that is all something that you really don't want to worry about, because this is something that is taken care by Workday itself. You will never be interrupting, or you will never be working on anything related to the scheduled maintenance activities or anything. So you don't have to worry about it. It's just for information purpose that on a Saturday, every Saturday, there will be a scheduled tenant maintenance activity. Okay. Now the production tenant is the live tenant. So this is the tenant that will be used by the Workday users. So all the Workday users, your client will be using this tenant as their main tenant. All the employees will be having access to this particular tenant, the production tenant. So this is a tenant where they will maintain their actual production data, like actual employees and any new employees getting hired, it will be hired in production directly. So this is the production tenant. Now all the other tenants are for you, basically for maintaining the Workday system. Now, Sandbox tenant will be a copy of production tenant, and this will refresh every week. Meaning, on a Saturday during the tenant maintenance, everything in the production tenant will copy into Sandbox. So every Friday. Now, let's suppose today is what? Today is Tuesday. For me, it is Tuesday. So let's say you are working on some config, you got some requirement which you are working in a sandbox tenant. Now, any changes that you make here will not automatically reflect in production. It will not reflect in production because you are not moving those changes. These two tenants are exactly two different instances, but the only way they are related to each other is when during the refresh, the data gets copied from production into sandbox. And this happens every week, meaning every Monday. Every Monday you will have production equal to sandbox, and this is a standard across all the clients. Okay, it doesn't matter which client, it is a standard across all the clients where the production will be a copy of sandbox. The implementation tenant is something that you can this will be initially, it will be a copy of production, and how often this particular tenant will be refreshed with a copy of production will depend upon the client. Some of them will do on a quarterly basis, some clients will do on a monthly basis. So in order to refresh this particular tenant with a copy of production, you will have to create a case with Workday. So you will have a community access, Workday community access, where you will have tenant management as one of the options. And not everyone will have access to the tenant management, only certain employees from the organization. So you will have to be an NSC, meaning named support contact. You will be assigned as an NSC. If you are an NSC, then you will have the option to raise the refresh request with Workday. So basically you will go into Workday, you will create a tenant management case. There you will mention the activity, which will be tenant refresh. You will provide the source. The source tenant will be the production tenant if you want to refresh it from production. The target tenant will be one of the implementation tenant. So you will provide the target as implementation. Then you will provide the date and time, on which date and which time slot. So say, let's say between 1 to 2 p.m. you want it to refresh. So between 1 to 2, this particular tenant will not be available. It will be in a maintenance state, and it will take about an hour to basically copy everything from production into the implementation. So that is how the implementation tenant works. Now, these are the three tenants that you will be mostly working on. So once you start your job as a Workday consultant, these are the three tenants that you will mostly be using. Now, then there are two other tenants. One is Sandbox Preview. Now, Sandbox Preview is used basically for annual refresh cycles or annual release cycles. Now, if you remember, I mentioned that in Workday, one of the reasons Workday is very popular is because of the release upgrades, the regular upgrades, the features. So Workday will do a biannual release of new features, meaning every yearly, twice. So once in the month of March. So we just had a release cycle on March 9th, and there are a couple of new features that got added into Workday. New features, new functionalities, enhancements to the existing processes, some changes in the UI. The UI got better. There are certain aspects, let's say in time tracking and absence management, the way employees book absences. There is now a new UI for the calendar. The calendar is more concise and easy to use compared to what we were using before. So every year, twice in a year, Workday releases these updates. Once in the month of March, and now the second one will be sometime in the month of August. Okay, so August and March month, we will have a release cycle. So during this release cycle, what happens is Workday will release these new features. Now, when they release it, they will not directly release these features into production. They will first release all these features into Sandbox Preview tenant, meaning in the preview tenant, you will get all the latest features. So let's say on March, so this year, March 9th was the intended production date, meaning all the new features that are being released as a part of 2024 release 1 cycle will be available in production starting March 9th. However, from February 1st, even before February, I think it was somewhere around January last week, we had all these features. So all these features available in Sandbox Preview. Now the reason they will first update Sandbox Preview is because we will still want to test these features, right? There will be new features, there will be few new some of these features are automatically available, meaning you don't need to do any specific configuration for these features to work in your system. These are like automatically available. For example, a change in the UI, that is something that is automatically available. You don't have to make any changes. If there is any new fields that are available, you don't have to configure those new fields. It is automatically available. However, there are certain other features for which you need a setup required features, meaning you need to set up Workday in a specific way, or you have to configure the system in order to use that new feature. So there are these two types of features now, and some of these features might have an impact to the existing process. For example, now I said, right, as this year there was a change in the way absence calendar looks. Now this is a change in the UI, which means technically most organizations, now even in your current organizations, you might have some knowledge articles within your internally. Let's say you when you join the company, you might be given a brochure and you might be given certain, like, how do you book time, how do you request absences, what is the system that you use to request those absences. You might be having some write up around it, like the steps that you have to execute to request an absence. Or maybe you will have like a some of those screenshots will be there of the system, like especially Workday customers, because not all employees or all the employees who join their company, they might be not very familiar with how to use Workday. So they will have certain step-by-step instructions within their internal SharePoints, which the employees can access. Let's say the employee want to know how to book an absence. They can go into that SharePoint, they can open that file and see, okay, these are the steps. Log into Workday with your login details, go to this particular menu item, select absence, and then book your absence, and then your manager will approve it. And this is where you can see your all the absences. These might be the steps that employees will see. Now, along with these steps, they will also be providing screenshots. Now, since this is a UI change in in this particular release, all the organizations will have to update their internal materials. So that is a change. It impacts the existing process, right? So this is the reason Workday will first release all the features in the preview tenant, and once and it will give you about a month and a half time to review those features, to test those features. If some of these features are affecting their existing configuration, they can mitigate those problems. Okay, if they want to raise a case with Workday, they want to talk to Workday about something, about these new features, they will have ample amount of time to do that. So that is the reason we have Sandbox Preview. So basically, the Sandbox Preview tenant will be refreshed with new features twice in a year. So once in the month of January, or somewhere in the month of February, basically during release 1, and then somewhere down the line release 2. So every year we will have 2 releases. So this year we already completed 2024 release 1. Now somewhere down the line this year we will have 2024 release 2. Now next year we will have 2025 release 1, then 2025 release 2. Before, we used to call it Workday 21, Workday 22, Workday 23. This is how we used to call the release cycles. So we had this until Workday 35, I think, 35 or 36. After 36, Workday stopped calling the releases with these numbers and went with these numbers. So since we already know that every year there is only 2 releases, we will directly call it as 2024 release 1, 2024 release 2, 2025 release 1, release 2, 2026. This is how it is going to be going forward. Okay, so that is about the Sandbox Preview tenant. Now this doesn't mean that you cannot refresh the Sandbox Preview tenant. You can refresh the Sandbox Preview tenant anytime in the year. However, twice in a year it will automatically get refreshed. You will not be requesting any refresh. It will automatically refresh it with the latest features twice in a year. And Workday also makes it mandatory that all the features will all the new features that is getting released into production, it will first be released into Sandbox Preview. All the customers will be notified of these new features or new changes in the Sandbox tenant, so that they can go and check it out. They can get a look and feel of how this new feature works, how this new setup works, and then only it will automatically update the production tenant. Okay, now then the final tenant, the customer central tenant. Now this is basically used for tenant management. Basically, if you want to move the changes, let's say you have configured some business processes in the implementation tenant, you want to move these changes from implementation into Sandbox tenant, you can use customer central to move those changes from the implementation into Sandbox. So basically, if you have worked on any other ERP systems, let's say SAP, if you have some experience with SAP, you have a concept of transports in SAP. Similarly, many different ERPs will have their own way of calling these migrations, but this is basically migrating the changes from the lower tenants. When I say lower tenant, anything that is not production is called as a lower tenant. Okay, so you will be moving the changes from the lower tenant into production tenant or into a different tenant, or between tenants. You will use Customer Central for that. And there are other users to Customer Central. Even during if you are an implementation consultant, basically if you are working on implementations, you will be mass loading the entire setup data using Customer Central. So that is done by the implementation consultants at the time of implementation. So there are a couple of other these kind of users for this Customer Central tenant. So it will look a bit different than these tenants. Now the thing is, I don't have a test access to Customer Central, so I will not be able to show you exactly how this looks like. However, during the course, I will take a few screenshots so that, and I will show you those screenshots, so you will not be oblivious to any of the functionalities. You will know what exactly how it looks like. However, I don't have a demo tenant for you to show it. All right. um, so this was a general recap from the previous session where I spoke about tenant management. Some of you might have got confused. What exactly is a tenant? What is Sandbox? What is implementation? I hope now you might have got a better understanding of what exactly these different tenants are and why do we need these different types of tenant. See, I'll just let's take production and Sandbox. Okay. Now let's say you hired an employee in production. Okay. I'm going to hire Jansi in the company. So Jansi got hired on a Monday morning, or maybe on a Sunday, because as of Saturday you will have uh, the refresh completed, and as of Sunday morning, what you will have is in the Sandbox will have an exact copy of production. Got hired in production, you will also see the same transaction in Sandbox, because production and Sandbox is a copy of production. So it's a one-way street. From production, the data will go into Sandbox. From Sandbox, the data will not automatically go into production. You have to move it deliberately. You have to move it. It will not automatically go. However, the data from Sandbox, from production into Sandbox, will automatically move. So let's say you hired someone called Rajiv in this tenant. It will not automatically hire someone in production as well. It will not, because you have to hire that person in production itself, and as of Monday then it will move. So let's say you hired Jansi last week, and this week you will see that that particular transaction is there. Now this is on Monday, let's suppose, or as of Monday you're seeing the same copy. Let's say between Monday to Friday you have hired 50 more employees. Those 50 employees will not be in production for that week. The next week, as of Monday, again, you will see that you have these 50 employees plus Jansi here. You'll also see 50 employees plus Jansi here, because on a Saturday it went on a maintenance, and during Saturday there is a refresh that happened. Refresh meaning, again, all the data from production is moved into Sandbox. It's the name of the tenant is implementation tenant. It's not just for implementations. The name is called as implementation. This is by default, you will have one implementation tenant. Customers can buy n number of implementation tenants. So some of my customers, they have like 5 implementation tenants. Those 5 implementation tenant, they will not refresh every time. You have to request for refresh. So they will use these implementation tenant sometimes for different projects. Companies who have big companies who have multiple projects running simultaneously, they might be using different tenants for different purposes. Maybe there is a new project that is going on. They will use one of these tenants. They will refresh one of these tenants with production, and then they will configure the entire project in that tenant, and they will test it there, and then they will move those config to production. So different companies have different way of using the tenants. Some companies will just have one implementation, some companies might have two or three. The most common that I have seen is like companies who have ample budgets, like companies who have money and budget. They usually have like at least three implementation tenants. But then I have seen some companies like some of them like Apple, they have like what, six, seven, they have a lot of money. They are like seven implementation tenants. They just subscribe to those and even if they are using or not using, they sometimes use have some of these tenants as a backup at times if they want to use it for whatever purpose. So different companies have different way of using Workday, but then Workday has these are the features, and this is why they use implementation tenant. You
Right.
have to move it in whatever you do in lower tenant will not automatically update in production. You will
Mhm.
understand it as we speak more about Workday. So don't get hung up on just these concepts. There is a lot more to learn in Workday, and you will get more understanding as and when we start exploring Workday more. Okay, so don't just get confused by these terms. This is some basic terminology. I thought you should be aware of this before we move ahead and talk about other things. Okay, so I hope everyone are able to see the Workday screen. Once you log into Workday, this is how the screen looks like. Now, if you have noticed, I logged into Workday from a browser, meaning you just need a laptop with a browser or a desktop with a browser, and you can log into Workday. I have even logged into Workday using my mobile browsers. So Workday is very intuitive that way. It's entirely cloud based. You don't need a specific server or any other equipment in your office. You just need a browser to log into Workday, and then you can set up your entire company HR processes and finance processes, payroll, everything you can set up within this particular Workday system. Now, if you look here, this is the menu, meaning this will have some of the most used apps. These are called as worklets, and employees will be able to use these apps. So this is like a quick menu for the employees. They can just log into Workday, and they can easily go through some of these items. Now, not all employees will be able to see each and everything. Since I'm like an admin, I will have a lot more access in Workday when compared to employees who will be having some restricted access. They will not be having the entire access. Okay, and if I go to the right here, you will see there are four icons here. The first one is, this is the assistant, Workday assistant. Now some companies, Workday does have like a Workday assistant. This is like a robot. Employees can directly request certain transactions directly. If they want to find certain information, they can directly ask directly in this assistant. Most companies use Workday Assistant. Managers can easily do certain transactions for their employees directly from the assistant. They can just click on this Workday Assistant, and they can type in here some of the requests. And this is like an AI platform for Workday, which they are constantly improving and developing. The next icon that you see here are notifications. So any employee notifications that the worker or the Workday users will receive will be over here. So these notifications can be anything. Like you see, there is a happy birthday notification. There is a birthday for one of the employee. So there is a birthday notification over here. So finance reports notifications. So these are different Workday notifications in this particular. For my profile, you are seeing like 17 notifications, and not everyone will be receiving like 17 notifications. um, uh, it depends upon the type of employee. Now in this particular tenant, I am set up as an admin, so I might be getting a lot of other notifications. Like if an employee is hired, a new employee is hired, I will get a notification saying that, hey, there is a new employee who got hired. Maybe check out some of their payroll and get those things set up. So you can give out that particular communication to the admins. If a new employee is hired, maybe their manager also need to be notified that, hey, there is a new person who will be joining your team. The HR should be notified, the HR partners, hey, there is a new person who is joining this particular team, maybe meet with them. So all these notifications about the different business processes, if there is a new report available, so if you have executed a report, that report might be available. If that report is now processed and available for use, you will see a notification here. So you can set up different notifications in Workday. All these notifications are again which can be set up from the business process, which we will discuss in some of these sessions. For now, just understand that this is the notification. Now we have another item called as my task. So if you are required to perform a certain task in Workday where you have to complete an action, all those tasks will be available over here. Now you see that there are a lot of tasks, like there is a higher task that is pending, and there are a lot of other tasks in the system. So all the activity or any action item that is pending on you will be available in the my task box. Now here you can filter by different, you have a lot of filters. So this is like a basically like your email inbox. When you have an email inbox, if you want to search for a specific mail, if you want to search for a mail from a specific person, you will type it in this search item, right? Similarly, you can search for certain type of task that is waiting on you here. There is saved searches here. Basically, if you want to save a particular type of search, and you can save those searches, you can have filters, active filters. You can manage those filters, like all to do tasks. You will see all the to do task over here. If you want to see any specific type of task or any specific, you can save those filters and view it. So this is not like super important, but this is for you to understand. Basically, you will always end up using all items where you will see all the tasks that are currently available over here. You can also bulk approve certain transactions if you have access to do it. For example, here you can see that there are 7 items that are awaiting for me for a bulk approval. I can click OK, and I can probably bulk approve some of these transactions over here. It's giving some error, so that is fine. So this is called as a my task inbox. Here is your profile. So basically, an employee's profile, you can view your profile. If I click on view profile, it will show my own profile. So in this tenant, I am set up as a senior manager, Ashley James, and this is my summary. So it will show my some of the details, like what is my job, what is my business title, who is my manager, okay, what is my location, what is my job profile, my title, my management level, if I'm a full-time or a part-time, what is my location, the shift, the hire date, the original hire date. Okay, so some of these information we will discuss in the future, but for now just try to uh, get a basic understanding of, okay, this is what it looks like. You will see if I go to the, you can move around different tabs like this, like you can go to the overview tab, you can go to the job tab, and it will give you different details about the worker, like what are the different transactions that has happened on the worker. There is a legal name change. So these are different business processes that were executed for this worker. We will discuss about business process in the future, but for now just understand that we can go through the worker tabs like this. We can navigate different tabs, and different tabs will give you different information. Like I can go to the job details over here. Okay, you can go to the job details over here. You can check out the organizations that are assigned to Workday. Okay, and compensation details. What is the current employees, this employee's compensation? What is this employee paid? So you will be able to see a lot of these details in this particular by navigating these tabs. If you click here, it will take you back to the home page. This is the home page of Workday. So this is the Workday homepage. Okay. And here additionally, if I go, you can go to my account where you will be able to change your password. You can change your preferences. Basically, Workday has a lot of certain preferences that you can update for yourself, like what is your language, what is your preferred display language, and Workday supports a lot of languages over here. So if you are from a specific country, let's say you only speak Italian or you only speak Spanish, you can select Espanol, and the entire Workday tenant will now be in Espanol. It will be in Spanish. So Workday supports multiple languages as well. You can select the preferred display language. You can also prefer the type of clock that you want within the tenant. If you want a 12-hour clock or a 24-hour clock, what is the default currency that you want to see? If you want to use USD as a default currency, or if you want to use INR as a default currency, and search preferences. And these are the notifications. So what kind of notifications you want to receive? If you want to receive all types of notifications or only a certain type of notifications, you can opt in, you can opt out. So there are a lot of other options available within your profile management. You have something called as sitemap. Now, this particular option might not be available for all the employees. Not all employees will have access to sitemap, but if you when you are working, if you have access to sitemap, this will basically give you the list of all the tasks and reports that you have access to. So now that I've executed in sitemap, let that report execute. So it's a type of report. It will give you the list of all the accesses and all the tasks that are available for you to execute. So you can see these are the different reports I have. These are the different tasks that I can execute, and these are different functional areas. So for each of these areas, like if I go to, let me scroll down, and let's say compensation. Let's say if I go to compensation, you will see these are the there are like number of compensation reports that you can use. There are a lot of compensation tasks that you can execute. For example, you can directly click on create calculated plan, and it will directly open that particular task for you. So you can, if you don't remember the task exactly, you can easily go to the sitemap, and then you can search for that particular task from this sitemap. Now suppose you don't have access to sitemap in Workday. You'll be able to easily search for the task in this search bar. So let's say you want to create a specific um, you want to create like a salary plan for an employee. You don't have to really think about what is the exact task name. You just have to type create salary, and Workday will automatically give you the different tasks that are available. And you can see that there are 3 tasks, and Workday by default will show you the most matching 3 tasks. However, you can click on view more, and it will give you a full list of tasks as well as the reports that start with create salary. Now you can see there are only three tasks that are available for create salary, and then there is one report something. So anything that has a salary, it is automatically getting pulled here. You don't even have to type the entire task here. For example, you just need to type the first three letters, and Workday will automatically identify what kind of task the user might be requesting for. For example, instead of writing create salary, I might just put CRESAL. It will still understand that I might be trying to create a salary, or I might be trying to create a sales item, or I might be creating a period salary plan. So whatever matches and all that matches, Workday will automatically show in this particular search reports. So one of the benefit of this is you don't have to really um, uh, have things by heart. I mean, you don't have to remember everything. You just need to remember what that particular term might be called, and then you will be able to easily search for that item in Workday. Let us talk a bit about what are some of the different modules in Workday. I remember we already spoke about this, but again, it was more about, I was just showing you different slides and talking about it. Um, Now, we do have multiple modules that are available in Workday, like we have HCM, we have um, so these are the different modules that we have. HCM is the core module, meaning everyone who is implementing Workday will have to by sure implement HCM, and then you have an additional module called compensation, which is also a very important module, meaning all customers who are implementing Workday should implement HCM as well as compensation module. Now, if they don't want to use Workday's compensation, they will still have to implement a basic Workday compensation for uh, a basic Workday compensation module with some placeholders, but they will still have to use HCM as well as compensation as mandatory modules in Workday. Okay. Now, other than HCM compensation, there are other modules as well, which is like optional. I mean, you can choose to use those modules, or you don't. If you don't want to use those modules, you don't have to use it. But there are different other modules, like we have recruitment, we have Workday recruitment, we have Workday time tracking, we have absence management, we have payroll, we have benefits, we have advanced compensation, we have finance. Okay, so like this, we have few more modules that are available in Workday. Now, it is up to the client to choose, like if they want to use a specific module, they can choose to use that module. If they don't want to use that module, they don't have to use it. So some clients might want to, let's say they went live with Workday. So suppose they went live 3 years ago, somewhere in 2020, they went live. Okay, so from 2020 until now, they have been using compensation and HCM. Now they decided to, okay, let's also start using advanced compensation. So the customer can subscribe for advanced compensation, and then they can use all those features and all those capabilities that is offered by advanced compensation. Similarly, they can also start using recruitment. They can start using time tracking. So these modules are, again, like, it's not mandatory, but if you want to choose, you can the customer can subscribe to these modules and start using these modules. Now, some of you asked me, like, will you be working on an implementation always, or it will be just implementation or just support? So basically, at the very first time the Workday is implemented, basically the employee is not, or sorry, the company is not currently using Workday, and they are moving into Workday for the very first time. At that time, it will be an implementation. Okay, so for this you might require a certification, and this is something like Workday mandates that all Workday implementation will only be done by certified consultants. So only certified consultants will be able to do implementation. The reason being, only if you are certified, you will be getting access to you will be getting implementer access. This is like unconstrained tenant-wide access. There will not be any restrictions for an implementer, and they will be able to access every single thing in Workday. Okay. Now, once the system goes live, after that, any kind of additional enhancement that comes, for example, in these cases, like I said, the client was live with Workday in the year 2020, and at that time they were only having HCM and compensation. Now they are going to add these other modules as well. I mean, they decided that, okay, now we have budget, and we are seeing the positive benefits of using Workday as our HR system. We would like to integrate all our other modules. So right now they might be using a different software for recruitment, they might be using a different software for payroll, they might be using a different software to handle benefits. Now they decided that, okay, from now onwards, in the next 2 years, we would like to bring all these different third-party systems. We want to sunset or retire all these third-party systems and start using Workday as our core HR system. Basically, move from those third-party softwares and start using Workday, because everything will be within one single system. It will be better. There will be better reporting, and again, different modules speak to each other, right? For example, if you are going to use recruitment, you will have to first create a position. So positions will be created in HCM, and then you will post those new vacancies into recruitment, and recruitment will post it in the career sites. So there is some interlink between different modules. For example, based on the time tracking, let's say you are going to be paying the employee based on the number of hours they work. So there should be some link between time tracking as well as workday payroll. So based on the number of hours they work, so let's suppose they work for 180 hours that particular month, this particular data should be fed from time tracking, and it should go into the payroll as well. So there is some links always between different modules, from benefits to payroll. If there are any insurance deductions, benefit deduction, benefits are basically healthcare plans. Like in your companies, you will be provided some kind of benefits, right? Insurance plans, and for that you will be paying like a premium. Now most companies, they will include it as a free benefit. Now technically it is not free, you are still paying for that. However, it is not like a deduction that happens from your salary. However, if apart from the free tier, like now most companies, they give like a 5 lakh insurance for the employees, and up to 3 lakhs for their parents and spouse and children. However, there can be a top up where you can um, make it like 10 lakhs cover. So for this 10 lakhs, you are required to pay, let's say, 25,000 additional per year. This 25,000 deduction should go into payroll, right? So these kind of deductions will need to move into payroll. These kind of payment details should go into payroll. Let's say there is an unpaid time off. So employee went on a sabbatical leave where it is an unpaid time off. This particular data should also go into payroll, so that Workday knows that, hey, this person is on unpaid time off. So for this particular month, there should not be any salary that has to be paid for this particular for a particular employee. So Workday has different modules. They speak to each other. There is some kind of a relation. What you configure in one module can have some potential effects in other modules as well. Now they speak with each other. So, and again, this is good thing because everything is integrated within Workday. Now whenever this happens, when I say this happens, basically once the client is live on one or two of the modules, and they want to bring in maybe an additional module, maybe they are live on many other modules, but they are not using time tracking absence, they want to implement time tracking absence, that can still be implemented even though it is a fresh implementation, meaning those modules need to be freshly implemented. It can be done by the support consultants and as a phase X project. We call it as phase X implementation. So it is an implementation, but you don't have to be an implementer, or you don't have to be certified to work on these kind of projects. Now these are the type of projects that are currently flooded in the market, meaning the customer is already using Workday from the past few years. Now they want to implement a new module, or they want to upgrade or update their existing processes. So maybe at the time they implemented Workday, they implemented based on their current scenarios and current business objectives and current business processes. And now after 3 years, they are seeing that there are a lot of changes that they want to potentially do, because now they have started using Workday. They are recognizing that, hey, there are certain things that we would like to change in the system, and for that we might need some additional consultants who can configure it for us. Now that is a phase X project. So these kind of projects are a lot in the market, and you can potentially, even though you might not be initially working on an implementation project, you can still be getting a similar type of experience working on these kind of projects. Again, integration is something. So these are all called okay, let me talk about that as well. So primarily there are two work streams. So when you say you are a Workday consultant, you will either be a functional consultant or you will be a technical consultant. So functional consultants are the consultants who will be working on functional modules. Like the functional modules are these modules, whatever I explained here. These are all functional modules. Now, let us back up a little and think of a time that I explained. 20 in the year 2020, the customer was using only HCM and compensation I told, right? They were not using any other modules. Between 2020 to 2023 or 2024, they still have to run their payroll. They still have to run their absence and time tracking. So let's say for payroll, um, they might be using ADP payroll. For time tracking, let's suppose they are using Kronos. Kronos is a time tracking software. For benefits, they have some kind of a third party benefits system, third party benefits provider. We have for recruitment, they might be using um, there are multiple recruiting systems out there. Maybe they're using Greenhouse for recruitment. So like this, they are not using all the products that are in Workday. However, you still need certain data from Workday. Like let's say you hired a new employee in Workday, and that employee will require access to Kronos, right? So you might want to integrate Workday with Kronos so that all the employees hours. So let's say a new employee has hired as a part-time employee, the Kronos should know that there is a new employee who is part-time, so that it will appropriately calculate the time for the employee, the type of payment that needs to be done. This has to be also integrated with payroll, so that payroll knows that, hey, there is a new employee, and from now on, from this month, we also have to pay for this new employee. So all this kind of work, integrating with the third party system, is done by the technical consultants. They will specifically be working on integrating Workday with third party systems, and functional consultants will be working on configuring the functional modules in Workday. Now, if you ask me about the scope, every company will have some kind of an integration. Every project will have a requirement for integration consultants. So this is both a um, great. I mean, there is nothing like functional is good and technical is not good, or technical is great and functional is not good. Both of their modules have their own requirements and own scope across industries, and across opportunities are similar. However, I have seen very less people who are both functional and technical, meaning you might be working more as a functional consultant and less as a technical, or either less as a or more as a technical consultant and less as a functional. But I have not seen a lot of consultants, or I have not personally met anyone who is like a pro in functional and a pro in technical. I mean, you there might be people out there, but you will see very less population out there who will be doing both, because it is from a work perspective, you'll be working what, 40 hours or maybe at max 60 hours in a week. You will be either be focusing more on the functional side of things, or you will be focused on the technical side of things. Unless you are like a manager or a senior level, you might be overlooking things from both functional and technical perspective. But from a hands-on perspective, you might not be hands-on both. Now the reason I'm explaining this to you is, I have seen a lot of students like you who complete their trainings, and they will go ahead and start posting their resume saying that I am a techno-functional consultant. They will apply for, in their resume they will put that they are a techno-functional consultant. Now the moment you tell that, if it's a interviewer like me, the moment I read the statement, I know that you are a fake consultant. So I would really, and right now, because you are currently learning HCM functional, so you are a functional consultant. You will always say that you are a functional consultant. You will not say you are a technical consultant. You might, you will still learn certain integrations like inbound integrations, but that doesn't make you an integrations consultant. That doesn't make you a techno functional. You will be a functional consultant, and that is how you will market or float your resumes in the market as a functional consultant. Now, security is one of the important modules in Workday, and you need to implement security, because it is what controls the access. Now there are different personas in Workday, right? In a company, there will be the senior management. There will be like a senior management. There will be certain other personas. Let me just draw this out like this. Okay, so let's take these four personas. Let's say this is like the leadership. Okay, this is the HRIS team, basically HR technology team. You have now the middle management like managers, and then you have employees. Now, the type of access each of these parties have in Workday will be different. The employees will only have access to their personal information. Basically, whatever data they should be seeing for their personal level, they won't be able to see other employee data. I mean, they should technically not be seeing the other employee data. You should not be seeing, let's say, the contact details or the personal address of this employee. You should not be seeing the compensation details of this employee, right? However, let's say the manager for both of these employees, A and B, is M. Okay, let's say manager M, and he is the manager for both of these employees. This manager should have access to some personal details. Maybe the manager need the access to contact details of the employee. Maybe this manager should have access to the compensation details, like what is this employee salary and what is this employee salary. He will have access to the salary details of their employees. So managers might have a different level of access. The HRIS team, they will have access to the salary details of all these employees. So managers and also the leadership, because they are the HR team, they manage the compensation for all the employees, they manage the payroll, so they should be aware of what is the compensation or what are some of the benefits that are paid to these employees. So they will have a different level of access, and the leadership will have a different, they will be having access to some of the details of the entire organization. Now, how will you control these different accesses within Workday? It is all controlled using one module called as a security module. So security module will determine who will have access to what, which employee will have which level of access. So if this person is a user, what kind of access does that person have? If this person is a manager, what kind of access should this person have? Now you should also have a way of automating these things, because you cannot specify every time you are hiring an employee, you cannot determine that okay, these are the level of accesses that we have to give. Some of these systems need to be automated, meaning as soon as an employee is hired, based on his current level, based on his current position, these accesses should be automatically assigned. The employee should be automatically given access. If the employee is moving from a specific, let's say the employee is current today a manager, from manager position, that employee is now moving to an individual contributor role where that employee is not actually leading a team. So that employee should not have access to any employee's other comp or any other data, because that person is an individual contributor. So it should automatically revoke access, it should automatically grant access. So all that is handled by the security module. We will be touching upon some parts of security during our HCM discussions. However, Workday security is in itself a different functional area where we have separate consultants will be handling the security for Workday. However, you should still have some understanding of some of the basic security concepts, like how security is set up in Workday. What if you are not having access to certain things but you need access, you might be still requesting the security admin for that access. But you should know, as a consultant, you should know where exactly to look for in Workday for that particular items. And then, okay, I don't have access to this particular detail in Workday, and this is where you'll have to access me security. Now we will be discussing all these concepts in the future, but that is this is basically what I wanted to talk about, like an overview of how security is handled. And I just touched upon a very high level about Workday security, just gave you a glimpse of, hey, we also have something called as security in Workday. And that is basically, if I just go through some of these details, you will this is what it basically speaks about when it says Workday security architect. So I just wanted to give you some understanding about why do we even need a security module in Workday. So when you are, let's say you are working as an implementation consultant and you are going to implement Workday for a customer, there are certain phases in which you will implement Workday. So the first phase is called as a design. We call it a design sessions. So it starts with design sessions, and then after the design sessions you will have architect sessions, you'll have architect review, then you have setup or configuration phase, then you have unit test, UAT, migrations, or you call it as conversions, and go live. Okay, so in during the design sessions, this is where you will go to the customer. The customer has showed interest in implementing Workday. Now you will be going as a consultant to the customer, and then you will be giving them an overview of different modules in Workday. So it will be similar to a session that I am taking right now for you, but it will be more on a high level and focused on different areas like what are the different types of business processes that are available, like how will you what are some of the transactions, like if you want to hire an employee, how does that look like, if you want to promote a worker, transfer a worker, or change the location for a worker, how does it look like, what is the business process, what are some of the options to configure, like if you need approvals, if you need someone else to review, who can initiate. So those kind of details you will discuss during the design sessions, and design sessions will happen for every module. So let's say the customer is interested in implementing HCM, compensation, time, absence, and recruitment. You will be having different separate sessions for HCM, separate sessions for recruitment, separate sessions for compensation, and this will happen with the relevant stakeholders in the company. So if it's a big company, they will be having a different team for compensation, which handles only the compensation for that particular company. There will be a different team that handles only the recruitment activities. So there will be a talent acquisition specialist. There will be a talent acquisition lead in that company who will only work and deal with the hiring and the acquisition of talent, basically like attracting talent and retaining this talent. So there will be different verticals in the different departments within the organization, and you will be having these design sessions with these different stakeholders in the company. So if you are an HCM consultant, you'll be working with the HR people, the HR partners. You'll be discussing like, hey, these are the features in Workday, and this is what is available, and these are some of the options that are available. And for each of these, Workday provides design workbooks. So these are the templates that can be downloaded from community. Workday. Again, every year when there is a release, if there is some additional things that they need to add, they will keep on updating these design workbooks in the community. You can download this from the community. So as if you are working as an implementation consultant, yeah, and even if you are not working as an implementation, as soon as if you are working as a Workday consultant, you will be having access to the Workday community. And if you are an implementation consultant, you will have some additional access within the Workday community, where you will be able to download these design workbooks. Now, these design workbooks are like Excel sheets, Excel files with different sheets, and each sheet will have different columns and rows of data. So basically, it will guide the customer. Hey, this is where you will enter all your employee information, like the employee name, the first name, the last name, their personal details. So there will be a separate way where you will collect those configurations about the employee. You have separate design verbose where you will um, where you will collect the configuration data. Let's say this is a business process, and these are different steps that are required in our business process. So you will have it all documented in these design workbooks. So design sessions are where you will have these discussions with the customer about the different requirements and different processes that are available in Workday. And during these design sessions, the the customer will get a glimpse about what are the different features that are available, what are different options that are available in Workday, which they can actually go through. So they will decide, hey, these are some of the features that we want to use. These are some of the features we don't want to use. These are some of the features maybe it is good to have, but we don't want to configure. Let it be as it is. So that way you will that is all about the design sessions. The second phase is the architect phase. The architect phase is where the customer will start filling those design workbooks. So here you will explain the design workbook and the Workday system, and in the architect phase they will start filling the data into these design workbooks. So basically the customers will start entering what is the business process that they want to have, what how many approvals they need to have, how many steps they need to execute to complete a particular transaction in Workday, like a hire transaction or a transfer, or when an employee books a leave, who all should approve those leave. if a manager books the leave, who should that approval go to? Should What type of different compensation should be available to the worker? What kind of allowances should be given to the worker? All these details will be filled by the customers during the architect phase. So once the customers have completed entering all these details, then there will be an architect review phase where you will be reviewing these data from the customers. So customers will complete this particular workbook and then they will send it to you. Then you will review these requirements along with the customer to finalize the workbook. So basically this is where the requirements gathering will be finalized. Okay, so this phase here, these two phases, is the requirement gathering phase. This is the phase you will be collecting all the requirements from the customer, basically what they want to implement, what features they want to use, how they want to customize those features based on whatever customization abilities that are available within Workday. So architect phase and architect review phase is that. Now once these two phases are complete, now once you have all the requirements gathered and all the requirements finalized, it will go to configuration phase. Now the configuration phase might happen in multiple sprints. So a sprint may be, if you are not aware of what exactly a sprint is, this is the latest agile methodology that is used by a lot of companies, and a lot of companies see a lot of benefit in using sprint, agile way of implementing project. So basically sprints will be, it can be a 2-week sprint or it can be a 3-week sprint. So basically what they do is, whatever requirements that were finalized during the design phase, or basically during the architect phase and architect review phase, those requirements will be now divided into different tasks. So you'll have task 1, task 2, task 3. So basically the task will outline the requirements that were gathered. So if say that you want to configure 10 you need 100 positions, you need 250 job profiles, you need these many supervisory organizations, you need these many cost centers, these many companies. So all that will be divided into multiple tasks in Workday. So let's say you have a total list of uh, let's say 500 tasks that needs to be completed. Then this is like a very low ball. I'm just low balling the number 500. Generally it can go up to more than 1,000, but let's say you have 500 tasks that needs to be completed in order to complete the entire configuration. Now these 500 tasks will be estimated, like, okay, to complete these 500 tasks, what is the amount of time that you need? Do you need like 7 months or 8 months to just complete the configuration? Okay, let's suppose you have 8 months. 8 months will be divided into weeks. So let's say each month have four weeks. So 8 into 4, so that is equal to 32 weeks. Now we will decide that, hey, are we going to do this in like 2-week sprints or 3-week sprints? Let's suppose um, the management, and this is done by the scrum master. Again, you might not be involved in these kind of planning unless you are a scrum master or you are a solution architect. So basically, if once you rise up to a level of a solution architect, these are some of the activities that you will be very much involved in. However, otherwise, if you are not, okay, so these might be some of the activities that you will be more involved in, where you'll be deciding how long the project should be, how many, what should be the duration of configuration. Like you might need 8 months to configure this, or you might need 12 months to configure this. When I say configure, it's not just configuring, you will be configuring it and you'll also be unit testing that entire config. So let's suppose we determine that to complete these 500 tasks we need 8 months. So 8 months will be 32 weeks. Okay, now this 32 weeks, let's suppose we are going to do a 2-week sprint, so this will be divided by 2. So basically you will be doing it in like 16 sprints, right? So you will be dividing this entire 500 tasks into 16 sprints. Now each sprint you will complete, let's say 500 tasks divided by 16. Now you will determine in this first in sprint one how many tasks you will be completing. Let's say you will be completing like 12 or 15 tasks. So when I say complete these tasks, you will be configuring those tasks and you will also be unit testing those tasks. So you will basically every sprint you will configure something, you will test it, and then you will sign off on that particular config. Now every sprint slowly knock off you will slowly knock down some of those tasks from the requirements, and by the end of 16 sprints you should be having the all the configurations completed and unit tested. So basically that is the configuration phase, configuration and unit testing, where you will configure all the where you will configure every all the tasks available. Sorry about that. Yeah. So during this phase, you will be completing the configurations of all the requirements that were finalized during the requirement phase. Once the configurations are completed and unit tested, you will be asking the customers to start do completing the UAT testing. So during this phase, for UAT testing, there will be certain scenarios the customers will be testing. Like, so let's say the customers gave a specific business process that need to be executed when you are transferring the worker. The customer will have specific scenarios around that. So let's say as a manager, you will initiate a specific transaction, then and you will make sure that okay, this particular approval is happening or this particular review is happening. So you will have multiple scenarios configured for testing. So let's say for there are 500 things that were configured, and then you have 800 scenarios that needs to be tested and signed off by the customer. Then you determine to complete this 800 scenarios, you might need, let's say, 3 months to complete this entire testing. Now there will be like 10 people who will be working simultaneously to test different scenarios, and again this will also be part of the sprint plan. So this is the unit UAT testing, where the customer will be doing the testing. So this is called as a user acceptance testing. Now during the UAT testing, there might be certain issues they have found, so all that issues will again go into the issue log. So they will put it in the issue log, where this issue log will be revisited by the functional consultant like you, who will be looking at the issue log, and then they will start fixing those issues, and then again this cycle will happen in this way. So during the UAT, any issues will be logged, and then issues will be solved, and again they will retest, and then slowly, let's say there were 500 or 600 issues that were reported, and slowly the day the issues will become zero, so there are zero issues now. This is the day they will say that okay, now the UAT testing is completed. Now let us start moving migrating the config. So basically, all the worker data will now be will have to be put into the tenant. So that is called as a conversions phase, where you will. So now you have the entire setup. So you have the configurations done. Now you need to start migrating the employee data. So customer is already, let's say the customer has been using SAP. Now they are migrating into Workday. Now this particular customer has 10,000 employees in their company. Now you have to migrate all the data of these 10,000 employees from this particular system to the Workday system, and this is done by the conversions consultant. Usually it is done by the conversions consultant. However, if you can also do it if you have a good understanding of how EIBs work. This is where EIBs are used for mass loading of the data. So during the conversions phase, you will get this particular data from the client. So the customer, it is a customer's responsibility to download and extract the reports and data from the SAP system and provide it to you in those specific workbook templates, and it is your responsibility to take this data and then load it into Workday. So this in during this phase, you will be basically loading all this employee level data from their SAP system or their any legacy third party legacy ERP system into the Workday system. Now once the data migrations are completed, again there will be one round of validation, where The customer will download all these validation reports from the tenant, and then they will validate it against their existing data. So they will see that, okay, these employee data, whatever is loaded in Workday, is matching what we currently have in our SAP tenant. Now, once that is finalized, there will be DA reviews. DA reviews are basically called as delivery assurance reviews. This will be done by Workday. So Workday, once you say that, hey, we have configured our tenant, we are ready for go live. Now, at this point, Workday will come and look at your configuration, and then they will give a delivery assurance certificate. So basically, delivery assurance is where Workday will look at your config, and there are certain standards that are followed by Workday. Basically, um, Workday will Workday says that, okay, if you are going to implement this particular functionality, this is how you have to implement it. There is a specific standard that you have to follow when implementing it. However, you can also customize that, and you can deviate from the standard based on your use case. However, Workday, during the delivery assurance, they will flag these things, saying that, hey, this is something that you have configured which is not following our standard. So in the future, if there is something that breaks and something that doesn't work, you will not come to us and sue us saying that, hey, we brought you, we purchased your product, now it is not working. Yeah. So this is basically like an insurance for Workday. They will look at your config, and then they will sign off, saying that, okay, um, these items have passed our review, and these items are not, we are not going to sign off on these particular items. Now you can still go live, but then if anything breaks in these specific areas, it is not our responsibility. Basically, we are not liable for these things not working, because you are not following the standard Workday configuration methodology there. Okay, so that is about DA reviews. Don't worry much about the DA reviews. It is something that Workday does, and your leadership will handle that. So once the DA, delivery assurance review, is completed and signed off, you will get a pass from Workday saying that, okay, now you are ready for go live. Now you will select one of the dates, and you will go live with Workday. So the day you go live, whichever tenant is the gold tenant. So basically, this migration of the data, let's say all worker data that you put into the employee, all the employee data that you move into Workday, that particular tenant is called as the gold tenant. So gold tenant basically is the most updated and the most perfect tenant, without any issues, any problems, or any misconfigurations. And on the day of go live, this gold tenant will be converted into production tenant, and you will also be given sandbox tenant and implementation tenant. And depending upon the customer's budget and requirement, they can choose to have more implementation tenants, or they will also have sandbox review customer central tenants. So that is how the implementation methodology, this is more about the implementation technology of implementation methodology that is followed by Workday. So the HR partners, the HR partners in the company, they will be doing the testing. So UAT is completely handled by the customer itself. They will be doing the UAT. There are instances where the consulting company will also help with the UAT, but it depends. Again, if the customer wants to do the UAT by themselves and sign off, if the customer have the ample number of resources, they will be conducting the UAT by themselves.